This is the Bar Stewards Enquiry.
You're talking absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
In what way?
You were an underachiever in life. I'd saved your bacon one time. You were gone.
You handled that well. I couldn't save you. But you did the right thing.
Well, that's why you don't know anything about racing, John.
I didn't say I do.
Right?
I'm saying that...
What have you contributed to racing? You're one of these take-out merchants. Take out all you can.
And a very warm welcome to the Bar Stewards Enquiry Saturday King George podcast. My name's Lee Keys of systembet.co.uk, and as always, chewing the fat, my partner in crime, a tremendous judge and a man of experience, John Lane of John Joe's Blogspot on Facebook, if you haven't checked him out by now. Right, John, have you had a good week? All good?
It's not so bad. I've more or less got to go ahead for another week off the nurse, so there we go.
There we go, nurse. Yeah, nurse.
That's a good week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the King George, one of the principal race meetings on the calendar, and what do you think?
It's meeting, isn't it? Really, when you think. It used to be wall-to-wall punting opportunities to me, and I mean, I've had a hell of a job going through these cards, trying to find worthwhile bets. I really have. I mean, I've been harking back to the days when there was that race for the diamond necklace for the amateur jockeys, and you just had to say what Maxine Juster was riding and take all the 9 to 4 you could manage.
Yeah, no, great days. Great day. Yeah. I mean, do you think the race has lost its shine? I mean, the King George. I mean, Ian Davis has messaged in and said, time form top rated 1956, 2010. You basically got Reburn, Ijinski, Milreef, Brigadier Gerard, Shergard, Dancing Brave, Reference Point, Generous, and Harbinger all won the King George. The 2009 to now, the See the Stars and Frankel both won the 10 furlong international. Is the York race probably more fashionable nowadays, says Ian?
I think the York race is possibly better placed in the calendar from a modern training standpoint. I wouldn't say people are poo-pooing the chance to win a King George, because I think everybody would still like to win one. I just think now maybe there isn't the will to send a horse that might have a squeak. I mean, you go back to horses like Hilde Bourbon that won it. You wouldn't have particularly said he was going there with a live chance, but there was plenty in that sort of bracket that year that were having a pop, It's similar to like previous years, like when the Minstrel won it. There's horses that were like placed in eclipses, your Lucky Wednesdays, and horses like that. So it was verging on Group 1. So now I think that you're sort of tending to just have like really proven Group 1 horses running, and it does thin it out a bit,
Yeah, I mean, just looking at last sort of like the winners since Ian sort of mentioned the period, the golden period, if you like, up to 2009, and enables 3 King Georges. You could probably say, like Poet's Word in between. I'm just looking through the list. Nathaniel probably, he was high class.
Yeah.
But some of the others, Daydream, Novelist, Highland Reel, these don't really strike as, and I look at, I mean, not that the prize money means anything to some of these owners in this race, but I mean, I think the prize money is terrific. 500,000 just about for the winner. 188,000 for second, 94,000 for third, 47,000 for fourth. I mean, these are big sums of money, and I've got to say that possibly, to Ian, it possibly is on the downgrade. I'm pretty sure that breeders, for some reason, seem to be following the Australian model, and they want quicker animals these days, as we've touched on in past shows. You know, the old days of, you know, winning 1.5 mile races, then going on to win the St. Leger is lost on the breeding world at the moment. So yeah, it possibly is the Marna Quarter race. The International at York probably suits, and like you say, John, it's probably nicely spaced out in the calendar. It's probably a better option for some. So yeah, it's possibly not the race it probably once was. You know, I can remember getting up as a teenager and as an excited teenager buying the Racing Post out of my paper round money, and you know, and basically there's like Reference Point, and just great days, great fields, great, you know. But I don't remember, you know, modern times apart from Enable, there's nothing really that floats my boat. So yeah, next, Ian also got another question for us, and he said, obviously to do with the Panorama documentary on Monday. He said, in a world where animals are part of the food chain and millions of humans have no quality of life, you'd think it would be easy to defend an industry which generally pampers its livestock like no other. But racing seems unable to construct a robust, intelligent counter-argument.
Because none of the spokespeople have the common sense to say what Ian's just said there, really.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Spot on in every word. I mean, literally, you know, as an owner myself, racing, I feel, is one of the most beautiful. So I'll use the word beautiful. It's a beautiful sport. They're beautiful animals. They are cared for and looked after fantastically. And it's such a shame. Yes, there are parts of racing, and I'm not dismissing what I saw on Monday, because it was absolutely revolting, to be honest, to see the way that this, and especially like some of these horses that had contested high level, you know, national hunt racing, etc., you know, met the demise. And I'm sure we do need to do more, and I'm certain there are solutions for that. A lot's being bandied about at the moment, but I mean, what's your thoughts on it, John? Is there a solution to tackle this straight away, or is it something that we need to sort of build longer term?
Well, I think any solution is going to be a long-term fix. I would point out that I do think the Panorama programme was very poorly named. I mean, the dark side of horse racing, I think it should have been the dark side of this particular abattoir that we're going to feature.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
There's absolutely no guarantees that a lot of the horses that they spoke about, they know that they're being put down in that abattoir. You know, I think there was 3, wasn't there, that had gone there, and there was no hidden camera situation where he actually observed any of the race horses mentioned being put to sleep. And you know, I mean, if they had, you can guarantee Panorama would have made a meal of it and said it. This is whatever the names escape me. Forgive me, but they would have said this one's going in and here he is lining his shot up from the doorway and what have you. But even the ones that went there, we have no way of knowing that they weren't put to sleep correctly.
Yeah,
you know, that could have been an aberration and they'd made a meal of. You know, that's not to say in any way supporting what went on there with those horses that were dispatched incorrectly, because that was awful. And the person that did that should have been sacked. And I hope they have been.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, racing, in the main, I don't think it does a bad job as regards rehoming the horses and making sure the ones that aren't fit for anything else are dispatched properly, but instances like that in Panorama certainly should not happen, and the powers that be should be making sure that there's nothing happens in the future that comes along and bites racing on the arse.
For sure. Great comments. And for me, I mean, obviously the problem is the horse numbers, the amount of horses that are bred.
Yeah.
At the end of their time, there's bound to be a massive surplus of horses that's no good to anyone. I know that sounds really crass, but like an owner that basically, well, it's not fast enough, blah blah blah, finds a home. Now, some blame are put on these owners that have genuinely just basically, thought that they've gone to a loving home. The trainer might tell them, yeah, such and such from such riding schools took this one in, and blah, yeah. And there's no actual paper trail. The thing that I would do to probably improve this, and speaking as an owner, would improve the paper trail when racing days are finished. I.e., so if it's not gone through a sales ring and it's not gone to an official concern, there needs then to be a paper trail to say where this, a documented paper trail, create jobs for somebody. I mean, BHA are good at creating jobs. They could pay somebody 100,000 a year from, like I say, a retired major to go through,
Good like Goose do it when she's had a ride in the Magnolia Cup.
Goose, yeah. Goose could be in charge of this for sure. But yeah, that would be the way to go, because then there's always a paper trail. And I think that's important and I think the former owner needs to be notified if there is any problems, because at the end of the day, it's like if you have a dog as a pet, or if you have any other pet, there are criminal charges if you mistreat your dog or pets, and I do think the elements are the same. I read some stuff on Twitter though that was a bit unsavoury for me, basically castigating owners as some kind of parasites, and they're just in it for the money, they don't care after, and all this rubbish. That's absolute baloney. I mean, there's literally most owners I can speak for, and I'd just say that most owners will make sure that and for my horses, I would make sure that they are. I'd say to my trainer, right, they stay in the field until we can find, and I'll pay the bills until we find them a home. That's it. It's not just a case of just. I mean, you asked me a question the other week, and you said, how would you feel if it was getting sold on for me, or whatever, or it was getting. I think if the purpose was correct, i.e., it was the right thing to do, then I think I'm in favour. I know again, people will say, well, you're in favour of killing animals. Well, we eat cows, we eat meat. That's what the human race does, unless you become a vegan.
Yeah, they're working animals, aren't they?
Yeah. Essentially, yeah, they wouldn't exist if there wasn't a purpose. They wouldn't have a purpose because they wouldn't exist. They wouldn't even be experiencing the nice lives that they have, and they do have fantastic lives. And I urge anyone that listens to this podcast, if you've got differing views to this, and get in touch with me, and I'll arrange for you to go to a yard, and you can actually see for yourself how these lads and lasses look after these wonderful animals, and some of them make it their life. They do it because it's a passion, and it's an admirable game to be in that respect. But yeah, anyway, we'll move on from that. A question now on a slightly different subject from Jack JCC Punter on Twitter says, your favourite topic, Lee and John, steward inconsistency. How can you throw the one out at the Yarmouth race and not the Sandown one? Whether you agree that it should be thrown or not is separate, but how can you do one and not the other for a pretty identical offence? We've had lots of stewards' inquiries this week, John. I don't know if you've kept up to date with that, but there's been a few that possibly should have got thrown out, and a few that possibly it's very controversial as always. But again, thoughts on stewarding, John? What can we do? How do we sort this out properly?
Well, these debatable stewards' inquiries where people are saying, well, that could have gone, but if that went, that other one should have gone as well, and situations like that. I mean, they differ from course to course, because you've got different stipendiary stewards directing the stewards in different directions. And that comes back to my original point about a central panel. I mean, in theory, with a central panel, you wouldn't get that inconsistency. But I would certainly do away with ex-jockeys as stipendiary stewards. I think absolute time bomb waiting to go off. And to my mind, it's just a recipe for disaster, you know. I mean, you can't have ex-practitioners sitting in judgment and of the former colleagues, you know. The impartiality angle is just out the window completely, you know. I mean, there could be people they used to get on with involved and people they absolutely despised. Well, what happens there? You know, there's nobody regulating it, you know. So, I mean, I'm not saying go back to the days of the Hibbert Foys and what have you, calling jockeys by the surnames. I'm saying get some professional people in, pay them correctly, and, you know, sit them in a room and don't allow any decanters of claret in there, you know, make sure they're all on coffee.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that Saeed bin Suroor has appealed that Newbury demotion. He's taking them to Portman Square for some posh lunch.
Instance, I'd just write to Saeed and say, well, if Princess Latifah presents herself and does the case for the you can have the race. We don't even need to sit down.
We'd just like a selfie or something. Yeah. There's one thing. I mean, steward. I do think there are certain things that need overhauling. Obviously, John's correct in my view that centralised stewarding will be a massively positive because you're going to get a lot of consistency with the same people doing the same job day in, day out. You kind of know where you stand. Punters will know where they stand. And that's all punters really want, really, to know where they stand. Where do we stand? And I get it. There are some really difficult calls. There's been one or two this week that have been really tricky for me. And I've looked and I thought, I could see this going, but I'd understand if they didn't. And, you know, there has been some tricky ones. And one of the tricky ones, if listeners, you want to watch this one, was at Newbury last night in the 6:35. Your Good Thing finished second to Burning Bush. And old Burning Bush decided that he was going to smash into Your Good Thing at the start, broadsided it, absolutely broadsided Your Good Thing at the start. And I know so because Your Good Thing went from 6 on the exchange to 16s after the bump. So it was quite a severe bump. And then it proceeded to bump Your Good Thing in the closing stages twice. Your Good Thing didn't get the race, but I'm told, I'm not totally au fait with all the rules, but the stewards, bizarrely, don't take into account the starts. So they won't look back to the start and say, well, that's been broadsided by that. So they literally just looked at the bumps in the final furlong. Now, that's just nonsense. Because how can you just turn around and say, well, that didn't make any difference? It absolutely 100% cost it the race.
Sure.
And again, so that's where things need updating. By the way, I'm not for American-style stewarding where they just chuck them out for winning 5 lengths if they've broadsided one. Things like that. That's just bad for the game. But it's just common sense. It's just like, well, hang on a minute. It's broadsided it out of the stalls. It's smashed into it, and then it's all bumped it for good measure in the final sort of like 50 yards, and then they don't take the starts into account. You know, it's just pretty moronic. But there we go. We'll move on from the stewards because me and John have given them plenty of hammer in recent times. Right, John Hines has been on, and he says, I feel like racing is in 2 camps at the moment. The ATR mob trying to dumb us down, Racing League, etc. And Racing TV Nick Luck trying to sell it as an intellectual pursuit. Any view on this? John?
Well, I think, I mean, he's right to a certain extent. I mean, I got absolutely all over the coals on Facebook the other night when Chapman jumped in the Thames after a couple of jockeys had already jumped in at that night meeting at Windsor. Because I said at the time on Facebook, when they were promoting this, I said, well, why is racing the only sport where people have to act like complete pillocks to get anybody to follow the sport?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you wouldn't get Gary Lineker asking Cristiano Ronaldo to jump in the fucking Thames, would you?
No.
You know, what's it all about that? You know, but that said, the groundswell of opinion on Facebook from what I probably classed as casual punters, is you shut your face, you don't know what you're talking about. So there's probably a place for it, but it doesn't sit comfortable with me. I've got to tell you, it's so uncomfortable. I'm siren in it,
Yes, yeah, I love these. When the Ginger Hitler was on, he was so sharp, and he said, "Yeah, coming for your hard drive." That was probably one of the quotes. We need to get the Ginger Hitler back on. I think I'm certain of that. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, 2 channels. You can tell one is appealing to and you can tell with Chapman. Chapman appeals to your casual punters, and the racing TV is a little bit more for the serious chaps, unless Nevison and McNair are on, and then it's like.
I'll tell you where racing TV could score a few points. These pundits that they have on, if they give them all the betting bank and made them stake their selections, and they kept a league table and kept showing it, and see who's stealing a living and who isn't, I think that would be quite interesting. It'd be quite damning, wouldn't it? Give them a betting bank, start them off, and set it at working man's staking. So that the people that they're hoping to attract the interest of are actually interested in seeing how these people get on. I'd be very interested to see how that panned out.
It's a good idea. I mean, obviously, I know for a fact things like William Hill TV do that. They've got lots of tipsters in that. William Hill employees. Andy Olding, I think Andrew Mount, Leona Mayer. They're all in that. It's a bit of, like you said, it kind of tells you who's clued up and who isn't. Probably in for a sacking if you keep finishing low down. But yeah, that's a good idea. I like that idea. Right, finally, before we move on to the tipping, which is the important part of the show, especially if you want to go late. And it's tough tomorrow, John. 20 mils forecast that Ascot anyway. But anyway, I'll get on to the last question from John Hines again. Thanks, John. Good follower of the Twitter. He said, "Do you have any grudges against anyone in racing, especially ones that don't really make sense?" He says he never forgave Mulrennan for the alleged India tape. John, I'm busting to know your grudges on this.
Well, I'm going to limit it to 3.
It's showing its own right, really.
I know, yeah. I mean, we don't need to do a Sunday sermon to this. Now, obviously, there was another person on the other end of the line when Mulrennan was making his call from India.
Yes.
And that nasty little Nurk is probably top of my list of people I absolutely abhor in racing. The pair of them, poor old Dave, who is now lumbered with the moniker Thick Dave, for no fault of his own. A lovely lad who would do his damnedest to ride to orders for you, and to be treated like that by waiting round colleagues just tells you what despicable shite bags they really must be. Secondly, I would go for Godolphin circa the time of Lamtara, because I thought their jockeying off of Wally Swinburne after he single-handedly won a derby for them by ignoring Princess Latifa's captor's explicit instructions to lie up. And he gave the horse a chance and gave it a superb ride. And then the scene replaced in the King George was absolutely abhorrent. And finally, I'm going to go for a national treasure, someone everybody loves, good old Jenny Pittman, for absolute filthy tactics with Golden Phrase and Carlton Hills Gold Cup. It was one of the worst exhibitions of spoiling I've ever seen in my life, and it's stuck with me ever since. And whenever she was on after the national, crying and all the rest of it, I'm sat there saying, "Dry your crocodile tears, yo." But anyway, there's your three. Anyway.
That was top class shithousery from Pittman to do what she did there to Carville's.
I mean, there should have been repercussions, you know. I mean, that house was ruined, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, grudges. I mean, I said I'd tell this story, and I'm going to tell it. Bill Turner would be my grudge in a way, because it's cut a long story short. I owned a horse with Bill Turner. It ran at Wolverhampton on New Year's Eve. I was studying with Bill Turner in the stands. I backed it place only in a small win bet. The horse missed the kick, was given a very not off ride by a certain Paul Doe. Bill Turner looked at me and said in the stands, "You've laid that, you fucker, haven't you?" Bill doesn't mess about with words. And I went, and I'm straight up, I'd backed it. They called Bill into the stewards. There was a massive stewards inquiry because obviously it was definitely stopped by Paul Doe, in my view. And so basically Bill wouldn't speak to me. So obviously I had to sell the horse. So I got in touch with Jim Boyle, was interested in buying it. So Jim took his horse box up to Bill's. I'd sorted it out via email, though Bill decided to walk down the drive with a double barrel shotgun and told Jim Boyle where to go forth and multiply. So, Bill Turner created a few problems for me as an owner, and I'd done absolutely nothing wrong. God's honest truth. You know, you could listen to this and make your own conclusions, but God's honest truth, I'd done absolutely nothing wrong. I'd bet the horse. I'm not driving to Wolverhampton. No one wants to go to Wolverhampton to stand in the stands and watch a horse off. Let me tell you. So that was that'd be mine. Right, great question, John. I'll move on to the tipping now, where me and John will attempt to land the ITV7 for you all, like in style. And we'll start off at York, John, the second meeting really of the day. And the 205 race is a Skybet Jump Jockeys Nunthorpe. Interesting race title, because I mean it made me chuckle because I'm thinking, geez. I mean, can you imagine any of these getting the pace right, John? Can you elaborate and give me the winner of this?
Well, the thing is, I mean, some harmless little schleps that thought this idea up's going to have had a nice bonus, aren't they? And, you know, I mean, what the hell are we doing here with this? This should have been run tonight at the stupid meeting.
Yeah, everyone's pissed, aren't they, tonight?
Yeah, where they've got the 5th, 6th and 7th from Britain's Got Talent after race. By the way, Haggis will definitely have the shagging shirt on.
The shirt will be out this weekend,
He'll be up there tonight, won't he? He'll be jabbing away to Will Young or whatever the hell he is now. Yeah. So somewhere else, and then
there'll be 3 buttons undone, John. Do you think?
Yeah, he's got to run a 10, hasn't he? And then he's got his big horse tomorrow, so he'll be stopping with the folks tonight. So he'll be really tying one on tonight with a shagging shirt.
Yeah.
The one I go with will probably get well stuffed, but he more or less doesn't need riding. He'll do it all for the jockey. That's Ebar Gum of Tim's. He's quite free going, and I think drawn 3 won't be much of a disadvantage here, because if a few of them go for the rails, I think half of them will get in each other's way. This will just plough along for a 20-1. If you have to have a bet, have £1 each way on this.
Okie doke. So John with Ebar Gum 20-1 for Tim Easterby and Jamie Hamilton. Low draws usually favoured on the. I'm not going to say. I was just about to say the Knavesmire, but that's what Graham Cunningham usually says. Can't call it the Knavesmire. It's York. So Midwinster, I felt was possibly one of the likely ones, but it's a gin and pate race. For me, I think Ginger Jam, Bryony Frost, ITV will be all over that. You can bet your life on it. If you watch the preview on ITV, it'll all be about Bryony and Ginger Jam. That'll be a popular winner for the terrestrial TV channel. But Midwinster would be an each-way choice for me at around the 7-1 mark. And as mentioned by John, Ebagum. In fact, somebody tried to pronounce this other day from down south on Racing TV, and they actually said Ebegum. I'm not kidding. Ebegum. I'm not kidding. This is what you're dealing with. These southern folk. 240 at York is the Sky Bet Dash. It's a Class 2 handicap, £50,000 added. Nice prize, really, in testing times. And one for Anthony Britton, a horse that we sort of quite fond of, John. Mondamedge is heading the market at 11-2.
We've adopted this lad, haven't we, really? You know, I mean, he should have won last time. To me, you know, I mean, I think he was really unlucky, you know, just maybe started his run 3 strides too late. You know, he's got one or possibly 2 of these in him. I mean, he's steadily creeping up the weights as well, but I still think he can win off 91. I think he's probably got it in him to card at 95, 96, really. You know, obviously he's a bit tricky to present, and I don't think this is maybe the ideal course to do it. At the prices, I'd probably shunt Golden Apollo forward, because that one seems to be coming nicely into form now, and I think that's on a reasonable mark. So I'd probably go with that, but Mondamedge very dangerous still at that.
Yeah, I mean, Mondamedge, I feel will end up triple figures when it starts getting it right. I don't know if the horse lacks a bit of confidence or whether it's a bit tricky in a finish. Could be a bit of both. But I know there's a lot of trickiness in it, because I can remember at Newcastle, it went Larry, it bolted to post. And there's certain trickiness in it, but I think it's been well handled by Anthony Britton. And Cam Harley's the right man, and I'd like to see Mondamedge winning. I think I couldn't put anyone off, really. Gulliver, I felt. I mean, Gulliver's won 4 times at York, and I know Gulliver's quite close to your heart, because you put it up last year at 33-1. Do you remember?
Yes.
And you know, 4 course wins. It wasn't disgracing the scurry last time because it was drawn on the wrong side. It got broadsided out of the stalls. Before that, it was 5th in a Wokingham. It was 6th to Mr. Lupton. That's strong handicap form back in May over course and distance. It's now £2 lower. Again, again, it's where the draw pans out. I can't be certain. Low draws usually favoured, not always. There has been some stand-side affairs. But if it does play low, if it's high, I want to be on Mondamedge. If it's low, I probably want to be on Gulliver.
I desperately want to see Mondamedge running at Portland.
Yeah, the 5.5. Yeah,
absolutely his race. With the stiff finish and everything, I think it'd be absolutely perfect for him. If you're listening, Anthony, you know, draw stumps after this one tomorrow and go to Donny.
Yeah, I think that's the ideal race. I agree. 5.5 would be absolutely perfect trip-wise, I think, for the horse. Right, we move on to the 3:15. It's the big race at York tomorrow, the Sky Bet York Stakes, a Group 2 affair, 115,000 added. And Ian Davis is a listener's favourite horse here, Mohafeth. He backed it for the Derby and was furious with the shagging shirt for not running. And it's 6-5 favourite, with Armory close by as 2-1 second favourite. John, opinion?
Well, again, I think Mohafeth has probably been priced up on the potential improvement. You know, he's still somewhere behind Armory on official figures, but you would say he would be capable of something well in advance of 112 on what we've seen so far. Armory, I was kind of in two camps about this horse, because I thought he looked as though there was something wrong with him before the race at Ascot. He was sweaty and edgy, and I genuinely did not like the look of him. And then I thought he'd run a blinding race in the circumstances, only beaten a length and a half. So I'm not entirely sure about Armory, what we're dealing with at all. The rest, I can't have Juan Elcano in this. I don't think this is his bag at all. I'd much sooner see him in something like a Judgment with a few more runners and drop him out, deliver him late, pick up the bit. This, I get the impression that Zaney will ride him quite handy, and I don't think that'll suit chasing this pace, because I think Liam Jones will set quite brisk fractions on Montetham. I make it between the front two. I couldn't put anybody off back in the Fav, really, because I think he's got potential. And Armory looks the type that might just chuck in a York stinker, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with you there. In that, I couldn't. If I had to have a bet, if someone had, the pistol to the temple, it would be Mohafeth. Is it any value? Probably not. Around the 10-6-5 mark, bit boring. I was not impressed with Mohafeth hanging last time at Ascot. Hung right across the track. Some horses do that at Ascot, and several did it at that Royal Meeting for some reason. So you might be able to forgive it. I like you. Armory's rated £7 superior. We know it's the weight for age angle. The Sky Bet race hasn't played favourable for 3-year-olds in recent times. I don't know why that's so. They're below expected wins, so they're expected to have 3 wins. They've had 1 win, so they are performing below par in the race. Don't know why. Could be just random, but. I'm gonna have to sit it out. I'm afraid at the prices. There's nothing that stands out. I think the betting is spot on. I think that's how I would exactly price it as it stands. So it's all right coming up with a selection, but you can't come up with a bet if there's no value. So there we go. The race is priced up, and it might be just one to savour and for going forwards. Right, we'll move on to Ascot, obviously the principal meeting of the day, and we start off with the 150 race there. Don't forget, there's a lot of rain forecast, chaps and lasses at Ascot tomorrow. We're looking at a minimum of 8 millimetres. It could be in the region of 20 millimetres plus. It depends what thunderstorms hit, etc., etc. It's very tricky betting. But we start off with the 150. It's the Princess Margaret Stakes, a race I hold dear to my. I like this race. I always like watching this race. It's just kind of like it's King George Day. And it's usually a classy 2-year-old affair. Desert Dreamer heads the market at 5-2. That's by Oasis Dream. I don't like backing Oasis Dream on soft ground, so I don't know why they've backed that into favourite, because I wouldn't be backing that on soft. But John, have you any view in the Princess Margaret?
I don't think I could go past System. I thought System did really well last time when it won that race at HQ.
Yeah, it beat Desert Dreamer, didn't it, in the listed affair there? Yeah.
I mean, I think if anything, I think this course will suit System better. I think there's still more to come from System. The filly was ripping past the rest of them that day at HQ. I mean, if we'd gone another 100 yards, it's been a 5-length winner for me. I mean, I'm happy to rock along with System there.
Yeah, I mean, System currently sort of drifted to around 3-1. Whether that's the Hannon team that feel that won't go on the ground. For me, System should be favourite. If you watch the Newmarket race, yes, I know Desert Dream had to weave a little bit, but System was well on top at the line. And if you look at the horses physically, System would absolutely dwarf Desert Dreamer from a physical perspective. So carrying on throughout the season, there's only one thing that's going to get much better. That System. Desert Dreamer will probably level off, I would imagine, just looking at physical prowess. The only thing I can't be sure of for System is how she will handle cutting the ground. But the same for the favourite. That's by now the favourite, Desert Dreamer. That's by Oasis Dream. They traditionally prefer top of the ground, and like I said, Desert Dreamer is not proven on ground. In fact, they withdrew it on the 8th of May on soft ground. Desert Dreamer. That was Stuart Williams. The trainer withdrew it down to ground reasons. So if you get lots of rain, no idea why that's faff. So me and John both in the System camp there at 3-1 with a quite a confident bet. If that handles the ground, she'll win. We'll move on to the 225. It's the Straight Mile Porsche handicap. Fantastic Fox heads the market 100 to 30 for old Stonehand, Sylvester de Souza, and Roger Varian. John, any view here?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Fantastic Fox got absolutely Sylvestered last time. You know, I mean, it was trying 10 for the first time. Just, you know, whether it bolted with him or what, I don't know. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. But that said, and for all it was ridiculous, it still won that race at the Mile. And I think it remains a horse with considerable potential at this trip. And I think if the jockey can put his brains back in for this race, despite the plethora of wins against some of these horses' names, I don't think he's got a great deal to beat here. I think he's certainly got the potential to go way beyond what a lot of these have got in the tank. I mean, Dodo's an absolute shithouse for me. I think Marsabit's up against it first time with Holly riding. I think that could go a bit keen on her. I'm not fancying the Tinkler horse to keep going much more than it has. I think latest generation's well exposed. I think when you go through these, I think the one of potential is Fantastic Fox, and really you're just betting on whether the jockey's got his brain in gear.
Well, and secondly, maybe ground. Obviously, if he turns soft, I might be a bit worried. Obviously,
I thought he travelled all right up until he emptied out. I didn't think ground was a massive...
if you think the ground's okay, I mean, obviously the third to Snow Lantern and Derab is there. I mean, you know, Snow Lantern's won a Falmouth. Derab's got an official rating now of 113. This horse has now got a rating of 94 in a handicap. So, like you say, John, could be an absolute snip. And if anyone likes that, if that goes on the ground, then and you're quite confident, then Fantastic Fox has got a chance there for all to see. I think.
Let's not forget, I mean, he went into that Ascot race with us thinking he definitely couldn't win it. I mean, we were all over the Owner's other one, weren't we?
It was, yeah.
And we fully expected what happened to Fantastic Fox to happen. So he didn't surprise us that day by running a stinker. Well, what looks a stinker on paper. But I thought he showed us enough there to say this could be his bag. And I think he's a bet tomorrow anyway.
I just hope that Old Stonehands doesn't decide that he's going to take on Isla Kai for the lead. Obviously, drop him back in trip, you know, because Isla Kai front runs all the time. So basically, it's, you know, the last thing I think Sil wants to do is then make this a pace duel and then mess everything. You know, sit on the shoulders of Isla Kai. I think that's the ride, but it is Stonehands
in the run, can't we?
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. This could be an absolute blot. Could Fantastic Fox for Sylvester de Souza and Roger Varian. We move on to the Moët & Chandon International Stakes, the 7 furlong handicap, one of the heritage handicaps in our calendar. £105,000 added. You know, they can do better with the prize money, but it's still not too bad. I've known some years of the international be worth 150,000 added. These are the times we live in. Stats for the race are 4-year-olds have won 13 of the last 20 run-ins, so it pays to be a younger horse. And draws 13 and higher have won 13 of the last 20 run-ins, suggesting that high draws have the edge. I've had a message from Joe Nathan that basically says this is his nap of the weekend. He thinks this is a good thing. Matthew Flinders, John, he said it's £10 well in. It's gone up to 108 after finishing second to Safe Voyage at Chester. It's off 98 here. This is absolutely and with a high draw. He's also mentioned the draw. Is this not just a maximum bet? You know, like with Oisin Murphy in the saddle, riding like an absolute demon.
Well, absolutely not for me. I don't really see a justification for it going up to 108 myself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that Chester race was crap, in all honesty. And You know, I mean, Safe Flight just had it easy and didn't need to be anywhere near its best to win it for me.
Yeah.
You know, I could not take that as Matthew Flinders having run to 108 there. And I think the market has overreacted spectacularly, putting this in at 13-2.
Yeah.
I think, you know, if you're going to look at ratings, really, I mean, you need to be looking at the top horse, Motakael, because if you're going to start taking ratings literally, what the hell did that run till last time in the Bunbury Cup?
Well, we had that discussion, didn't we, when we were doing review on the sermon? We actually said, what has that ran to if you take everything literal?
You know,
Well, the racing per se 121. So
there's a case for saying it's 120s, isn't there? You know, I mean, and in a field that size, it's less tenuous than saying Matthew Flinders has run to 108.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah.
You could be betting Motakael with £10 up its sleeve, despite the fact it's carrying 9.13. You know, I mean, I couldn't bet it myself. I just think it's considerably better off at Newmarket than anywhere else. I know it's won it over the Carson distance, but I don't think it absolutely adores the July course. And the one I'm interested in having a little play on here is a 66-1 poke, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah, documenting. It's a hold-up Carson distance winner. He had absolutely no chance last time on the far side and wasn't knocked about. And he's on a reasonable enough mark to suggest he could probably do something here. And I think at 66-1, he's a very sporting play out the 8 box.
Interesting call, John. Actually won at this course and distance the last September off 101.
Yeah.
Currently off a mark of 104, like you say. That's a fair call at 66s. If the old boy still got in him at 8. Yeah, documenting for John at 66s. For me, I'm going for an absolute hound of a horse. Acquitted at around the 16-1 mark for Carlton Palmer and Lewis Stewart. Basically, stall 22. 4-year-old, so I'm with the stats are with me, the force is with me there, and he's a horse that basically is supremely well handicapped. He just frustrates the life out of you when he gets there and he starts messing about. It's one of those really though. This is where you can, you know, if you use your intelligence, go on Betfair, play the place markets, play him to be second to horses, other horses in the race, do a little forecast, tricast. This is the perfect kind of horse. Loves a strong gallop, you know, and then comes fast and late, and then dogs it in the line. And you hopefully one day that he actually does finally just stick his head down on the nod. And Acquitted for me is too big at 16-1. The form is it's too good. Second at Doncaster on reappearance when he was second in the Spring Mile. It's key form. He was 9th to River Ninth, only got beat 3.5 lengths. I thought he was Tom Marquand rode like an idiot that day because he got into the front about 2 out. Well, that's not good, is it? You know, hitting the front 2 out. Good luck with that. And then last time out, he was hanging all over the place when third to Magical Morning, and he's off the same mark. He can run to this rating easily, no problem. And I thought Acquitted would be one of those where you could sneak some 4-place bets, 3-place bet, whatever you want to do. But that's what I'll be doing. So Acquitted tomorrow at 16-1 is rather large. Right, we move on to our final race preview of this podcast. Before I go on to the King George, just like to announce that on Sunday we've got a Sunday sermon special. It's an hour in length, roughly. We'll hope to keep it to an hour. And it's myself, John, Catherine Fry, and Andy Richmond giving you the best 3 bets for Goodwood, each of us, and any other information. Plus, we'll also be having a good chinwag at the start and a few laughs and banter. So don't miss the Sunday sermon on Sunday with the Goodwood and Galway anti-post preview for next week. So it's a Sunday sermon special. Right, on to the King George. John Love is 7-4 favourite. The lads appear to have come in play. This was 5-2. The lads appear to be in play, John, knocking this into 7-4. thoughts on the King George?
I'm getting the impression that the lads are keeping it dry. And I think the Bokies have made a bit of a preemptive move here, cutting this in. Because I think the lads are waiting on the weather, myself. And if it was to toss it down, I don't think the lads will be playing. So I'm very much in the suck it and see camp at the minute, really, because I think we do need to wait and see how this ground pans out. Because, I mean, you've got Sergeant Wilson's house there that's absolutely ground dependent. She may not even run if they don't get any rain. I mean, at the end of the day, I'd like to see the derby farm franked and see the derby win, I think. But I honestly don't think I can have a bet. It could be a mess, this, tactically and everything, really. And I don't like the look of it, in other words.
Okay. Can I put one past you? It's my nap of the Saturday, and I'm very, very keen on Lone Eagle. It won't have a problem with any kind of ground. It won't matter if it rains. It won't matter if it stays the same. I just think the form of its last two runs, it was beaten by the Derby winner, Adayar, in the Classic Trial, but it was over 10. Which this horse will definitely get a ledger trip, no problem whatsoever on its head. And it then slammed the Bahrain Trophy Yabir, absolutely slammed it at Goodwood, destroyed it. And then turns up at the Curragh. Some people will say, well, it might have been flattered against Hurricane Lane, front end. We know our the Curragh rides. But I also look at the fact that Wordsworth was 7 lengths further back. Now, Wordsworth and Hurricane Lane have since gone to the Grand Prix de Paris, finished first and second. Alenquer was third. And I've just got the feeling that form is key for the 3-year-olds. And I wasn't impressed with Love's Prince of Wales win. I wasn't impressed at all. I think she's a cracking filly, and if she's at her best, she probably will take a bit of beating. But I'm talking about the prices. 13-2 for Lone Eagle is an insult, because what price do you make Hurricane Lane in this then? It's beat it a neck at the Curragh. Even if you consider that it pinched it, whatever. Hurricane Lane would not be anywhere near that sort of price. It'd be shorter than Adayar for me. So 13-2 is wrong. It's got Frankie in the saddle again. Tactically, we won't get caught out because it goes forward, because it's a galloper, right? So you're not going to get caught out tactically at any point. There's going to be no issue on tactics, no issue on anything. It'll probably either bound out in front or it'll sit second if someone takes it on. And that's it. So basically, you've got a grand bet there at 30. I just think this will go close, really close. So that would be my strong bet of the weekend, Lone Eagle, John.
You just about got me convinced. I might just throw in with you there.
It's a nice price, and price is key for everything. Of course, if Love comes back to last year, then I'm in the Love camp. But what I saw in the Prince of Wales was nothing. I don't think that she even ran to. I thought she was like 115, 116 in the Prince. I don't think it was a good Prince of Wales. As I say, Adayar prior to the Derby was pretty unconsidered. Obviously, it was well back for the Derby, but Adayar could win. Adayar could frank, and I'd be quite pleased if it did. Frank's the Derby form. I kind of like that. Derby and King George winner. But I do think Lone Eagle is that's 11-4. Lone Eagle's 13-2. No chance of them prices right. They should be close together for starters. So that's a starter for 10. So yeah, that's me and John, I think, done. Don't forget to come back on Sunday, because it's going to be a corker of a show. We've got Catherine Fry out the basement for the Irish. We've got Statman, and we've even got Andy L. I'll call him Andy L. Andy Richmond. Andy L. That's terrible. He'll be offended by that. But Andy Richmond, getting him off the NFL studies to come and do a preview is excellent on the last show. Tipped up a good winner at York. And so it'll be a cracking show, and I hope you all join us for that, and I hope you all back some winners tomorrow. Be mindful of the weather, and if so, keep your powder dry and don't do too much money in. we hope it's a good weekend. So we're back on Sunday. That's all from me and John. Bye for now.